so good afternoon guys. Back with Gavin today. This is session 4 of our winter series. Hopefully you've seen the other parts of that series. I'll link them in the description below. Storm Ewan, I think, is blowing a gale outside. It's the 4th or 5th storm as well, so it's great to be able to take this indoors. So today we're really just doing a kind of a follow-up session, I guess, on the first couple of lessons that we've done. So from my perspective, I've been working quite hard on the items we've discussed, maintaining the width in the swing, and also working on the impact position. I found the last range session that I had slightly frustrating. So my natural shot, or my shot, had always been a draw or a fade, and between the width in the swing and the impact position, we were working on trying to get that club face closed. The last range session, I was hooking, I was duck hooking, I was snap hooking, all sorts of stuff, which is great in one respect because it shows some progress. But obviously, I'm thinking I'm Tiger Woods, and I can slap every ball out of the park. So it just seemed like a great time to get in, have a chat with Gavin, see what was going wrong, and try and tweak that, I guess, before it becomes an issue. So one extreme to another.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it's quite normal for somebody who's embarking on a program to have good days and bad, obviously, and generally speaking, there's a bit of progress at the start, and then you might plateau a little bit, and maybe even have 1 or 2 bad nights on the range. Might make you feel, well, am I not getting this, or am I going backwards? Or when in actual fact, what often happens is we start to digress, and we start to look away from where we started.
Yes, absolutely. So
the progress was there at the beginning because the information was very clear and concise. And as we go along, nature of human beings, the nature of golfers is we almost get bored with the same information. So we start to look into different areas for improvement. As a result of that, then we get away from what's working, and so we're going to take a look at that today. We're going to take, as I said, as you have already pointed out, width in the swing was a big thing. Yeah. There are many reasons why you could lose width. There's many ways of creating it, or maintaining it, because you can't increase it, you can only lose it. Yeah. So we're going to take another look at that, do a little bit of video. And then we're going to just take a look at the shot shapes, because you mentioned hooking the golf ball and struggling, and that kind of spending an hour at the range hooking.
It's quite extreme. Yeah. Now, Gavin makes a good point there. So if you're anything like me, when it comes to changes like this, my expectations versus what's feasible and real, I expect this to change very quickly, but I also appreciate that this is a journey. And yes, it was frustrating in one sense being at the range and hooking balls, but then stepping away and saying, actually, hang on a second, this is actually progress. Granted, I'm not ripping every ball, but the ball is now going more in the direction that we wanted it to go in. It just needs a little bit of fine tuning.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes just a reminder of what's working.
Yeah, and it also, from my perspective, it feels now, okay, I haven't got full control over those shot shapes yet, but I feel I'm able to do a little bit more with the ball. It's just being able to get it to go in
the confidence to do it on the golf course, which is always the acid test, isn't it?
Okay, so let's get stuck in and see where we're at, yeah?
Okay. Exaggerate those 2 points again. Aim the face even closer to the target line. Set up exactly the same way in terms of feet and ball position, but just exaggerate that sense of holding the face off. Again, starts left, turns slightly to the right, it's closer to the target.
Yeah.
So I'm learning as I go along by going back to where's the face, where's the path, and what's the ball doing. Get behind the target line first of all, so I want you to see the target line on the ground. Obviously today we've got some rods down, so it makes life a little bit easier. Yeah. I'm going to ask you to point the face of the golf club just inside the target line. Okay. And I'm going to get you to open up your body and place the ball more forward in your stance. Good. Let's see what happens when you just make a good swing from there, when you just do what feels comfortable. You're better at playing it than I am.
As I say, it is a more natural shot for me, and when it looks like that, it's great. And when it goes to the extreme is when it gets a little bit concerning. But
okay, so we wouldn't change that.
no. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a little bit like my own situation, where the path was not a problem to create. You just squared the face to the path, and we know from previous lessons that your tendency was to get the club face shut down and turning over, and that's what you certainly complained about the last time you practiced.
Yeah.
So obviously there's a little bit more rotation in the face there than we'd like.
Yeah.
So going back to what I demonstrated in terms of holding the face of the club off a little bit, maybe that's a good thought for you now.
It's interesting though, like the more time we spend doing this, I could feel where that was going, you know, whereas previously it was like, I don't know.
But it's interesting, if you were at the range, you might be very disappointed with that shot.
Yeah,
But
typically.
if you go back, and this is the really important bit for golfers, if you go back to the target line, the face and the path,
Yeah.
and you say, okay, well, what was the problem there? Well, I established a good target line. I
Yeah.
knew exactly where that target line was. I achieved the correct path.
Yeah.
So the only thing that happened through impact was the face rotated too much.
So 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
So 2 or 3 ain't bad,
Yeah.
and we now have narrowed down exactly what needs to change on the next one.
Please.
So all of a sudden now you're constructively working through your shots.
Yeah, it's quite easy to beat yourself up, alright.
It is, yeah, and your golf swing won't change that much, but your alignments could change a lot throughout the course of a practice session, if you're not paying attention. A little bit left again, but there was some fade spin back to the right. Okay, so to summarise the lesson with Niall today, his last practice session, he was hooking the golf ball, hitting a lot of shots low, starting left and going left, which was what we would call a low pull hook. And rather than delve into the technique behind his golf swing as to the fix for that problem or the cure, I wanted Niall to go back to a concept we started working on quite some time ago, which was to hit the opposite shot to the one that's causing the problem. So in this case it would have been a high fade, a shot that starts left, spins to the right and travels quite high. And we focused totally on setting up to hit that shot and try to avoid any conversation around the detail of a swing or what might be causing the problem from a swing perspective. When you're at the driving range, it's unless you're using camera or you have somebody there that's qualified to help you, you have to rely on what you see the ball doing, and you have to rely on controlling how you set up to the golf ball and the alignments that you apply. There's really 3 things I like to focus on when I'm practicing or when I'm playing: the target line, the direction the club is travelling, and the angle that the face is pointing at relative to the target line. So in this case, today we worked very much on that high fade shot, and I put down a couple of rods to help Niall understand and feel and position himself correctly for that shot. So the white line here represents the target line, the yellow line represents the path line, which many of you would know to be out to in. So when Niall was setting up for his high fade, I encouraged him to aim the face of the club closer to the target line and to set up with his feet aiming slightly to the left along with his hips and shoulders, and the ball position more forward in his stance. Both of those things will encourage the club to swing to the left. So the path is probably the easiest thing to get right. The hard bit is to get a position for the club face that matches in with the way you swing the club, that will return everything where it should be at impact. So we use this template, and then you've got to take that information and then figure out what works best for you. The first few shots we hit, we pulled it slightly left, but they were decent shots. We knew that we got the path right, we knew that we got the trajectory right, we knew where our target line was, so we narrowed it down to the club face as being the problem. And that's a case of experimenting with aiming the face a little bit more towards the target line, or maybe having the feeling that you're holding the face of the club open through impact. A lot of golfers get a little bit narrow in their swing, they release the club a little bit early, the body and the hands don't match up, and sometimes the face rotates too much. It happens, a lot of good players have to deal with it, but you can counteract that by, as I said, getting the sense of holding the club face off a little bit. There could be technical reasons, at some point we might address them, but here tonight at the driving range we've got to get some good shots performing. So if we go back to those three things, the target line, the path and the face, we look at what the ball is doing, what it's telling us, we can generally find the answer in one of those three areas. Maybe you didn't know where the target line was, maybe the ball started right when it should have started left, maybe the face was open or closed. If you go back to those three areas, you'll probably figure it out.
Yeah, and from my perspective, I think it's about repeating or going back to the fundamentals of this. So there is nothing more frustrating than going to the range. You've got that hour or whatever, get off, hit a bucket of balls, and you just can't get the ball to do what you want to do. So Gavin spoke earlier on in the video around that, don't be super critical. Like, if the ball starts left and doesn't come back, okay, fine, you've got the path where it needs to be. You just need to get the face to match up to that position. But I think the key takeaway for me today is, when it's not going my way, don't change everything, because it's only, chances are it's only one thing that's slightly out that needs to, because it'll become infuriating and frustrating very, very quickly. So, certainly that's something I'm going to take with me today. The fade is my natural shot. It's something I need to become comfortable with. If I can get that to where, I want to be, great, and we can go and start looking at drawing the ball and doing all kinds of other things with it. But just getting back to some very basic stuff, I think, is key.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Okay.
Well
Thanks,
done.
Gavin. Thanks.